The peaceful illusion the stars were quiet. Too quiet. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of Earth's orbital station, looking at the screen before him. His coffee sat cold in his hand. Outside the window, space looked peaceful, just like it had for 2,000 years. But today, that peace was about to end. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Galactic Council," said Lieutenant Park. Her voice was shaking a little. Chen nodded. "Put it on screen." The screen flashed. A massive alien face appeared. It had 4 eyes, gray skin, and sharp teeth. This was Commander Zrath of the Velan Empire. Behind him, Chen could see hundreds of warships. Big ships. Warships. Ships that were built to destroy planets. "Humans of Earth." Zrath's voice boomed through the speakers. "Your time of peace is over. For 2,000 years, you have lived quietly in your small corner of space. We watched you. We studied you. We know everything about you." Chen took a sip of his cold coffee. He didn't say anything. He just listened. "You make music. You make art. You write poetry. You are soft. You are weak," Zrath continued. His 4 eyes gleamed with pride. "The Galactic Council has decided. Earth has resources we need. Your planet will be ours. Surrender now, and we will let most of you live as slaves. Fight us, and we will erase you from existence." The other officers on the bridge looked scared. Some were young. They had never seen war. They had only known peace. 2,000 years of peace. Their grandparents knew peace. Their great-great-great-grandparents knew peace. But Admiral Chen, he just smiled. It was a small smile. A quiet smile. A smile that made Lieutenant Park feel cold inside, though she didn't know why. "Is something funny, human?" Zrath demanded. "Do you not understand? We have 5,000 warships. You have, what? A few hundred outdated vessels? Your weapons are old. Your soldiers are untrained. You cannot win." Chen finally spoke. His voice was calm. "Too calm, Commander Zrath," he said slowly. "Can I ask you a question?" The alien looked confused. "What?" "In all your research about humanity, in all those 2,000 years of watching us, did you ever ask yourself one simple question?" "What question?" Zrath growled. Chen's smile grew a little wider. "Why did we stop?" Zrath blinked his 4 eyes. Stop what?" "Fighting," Chen said. 2,000 years ago, humans were at war. Not with aliens, with ourselves. We had weapons that could crack planets in half. We had soldiers who were bred for battle. We had ships that could cross galaxies in days. And then, we just stopped. Everything. We put away our weapons. We hid our warships. We chose peace. Because you were tired," Zrath shouted. "Because you were weak." "No," Chen said softly. "Because we were too good at it." Silence filled the bridge. "You think you studied us, Commander? You watched us paint pictures and sing songs. You saw our children playing in parks. You saw our festivals and our celebrations. But did you ever wonder what we were celebrating?" Zrath said nothing. "We celebrate every year that we don't fight. Every year that we don't go to war. Every year that we keep our promise," Chen explained. His eyes grew darker. 2,000 years ago, humanity made a choice. We looked at what we had become, and we were terrified. We were so good at destroying things that we almost destroyed ourselves. So we made a promise. Never again. Never again. Unless we have no choice." Chen set down his coffee cup. He pressed a button on his chair. "Commander Zrath, you've just given us no choice." Red lights began flashing all over Earth. In cities, people heard sirens they had never heard before. Old monuments began to open. Mountains split apart. The ocean floors cracked open. Things that had been sleeping for 2,000 years began to wake up. On the moon, dust fell away from massive cannons that pointed toward space. Near Mars, asteroids that weren't really asteroids started moving. Deep in the asteroid belt, old warships powered on, their engines roaring to life after centuries of silence. "What? What is this?" Zrath whispered, looking at his sensors. His face showed fear now. Chen leaned forward in his chair. "This, Commander, is what happens when you wake up something that chose to sleep. You're about to learn why humanity chose peace. And trust me, you're going to wish we had stayed peaceful." The transmission ended. Lieutenant Park stared at Admiral Chen. "Sir, what happens now?" Chen looked out at the stars, at the alien warships gathering in the distance, at the human vessels rising from their hiding places. "Now," he said quietly, "now they learn why the monsters stopped hunting." The forgotten history Commander Zrath watched his screen with growing confusion. His fleet of 5,000 warships moved toward Earth. They were the pride of the Velan Empire. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a city. Together they could burn entire planets, but something felt wrong. "Report," Zarath ordered his second officer. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy signatures. They're coming from everywhere. The moon, Mars, the asteroid belt, even Earth's ocean floors." Zarath waved his clawed hand. "Ignore it. Humans are probably activating their old defense systems. They won't help. Continue the attack. Target the human colony on Proxima Station first. We'll show Earth what happens when they refuse to surrender." The fleet changed course. Proxima Station was a small human colony. Only 50,000 people lived there. Miners, farmers, families. It would be an easy target. Or so Zarath thought. On Proxima Station, alarms screamed through the corridors. "Everyone to the shelters," shouted Captain Maria Rodriguez. She was the station commander, a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had been running this mining colony for 15 years. 15 peaceful years. People ran. Children cried. Parents grabbed their kids and rushed toward the underground bunkers. But Maria didn't run. She walked to the station's old communications room. A room that hadn't been opened in decades. The door was covered in dust. The lock was ancient. She entered a code. A very old code. The door opened with a hiss. Inside, the room was dark. But when Maria stepped in, lights turned on automatically. Red lights. Everything in the room was covered with warning symbols. In the center of the room stood a glass case. Inside the case was a red button and a single word. "Remember." Maria's hand shook as she reached for the case. She remembered her grandmother's stories. Stories that seemed like fairy tales. Stories about old Earth. About the great wars. About weapons that should never be used again. But now, she had no choice. She broke the glass and pressed the button. Zarath's fleet arrived at Proxima Station. He smiled with all four eyes. "Fire all weapons," he commanded. 1,000 laser beams shot toward the small station. Enough power to vaporize it completely. But then something impossible happened. The beams stopped. Just stopped. Hanging in space like frozen rain. "What?" Zarath screamed. "What is happening?" Around Proxima Station, the space itself seemed to bend. A shield appeared. But not a normal shield. This shield was made of something the Velans had never seen before. It absorbed the laser beams. Then it sent them back. The reflected beams hit 3 Velan warships. They exploded instantly, shields up. "Evasive maneuvers," Zarath shouted, but it was too late. From Proxima Station, weapons emerged. Weapons that had been hidden in the asteroid around it. Weapons that were 2,000 years old but still worked perfectly. Railguns, plasma cannons, quantum disruptors, kinetic missiles that moved faster than light. The names meant nothing to Zarath. But the results did. His ships started exploding, one after another. Boom, 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 retreat. "Retreat!" he ordered. But before his fleet could escape, something else appeared. A ship. A human ship. But not like the peaceful vessels the Valens had seen before. The ship was black, massive, covered in weapons. It moved like a predator, fast, silent, deadly. On the side of the ship, Zarath could see words in human language. "Remember the fallen, 2025. "What is that?" His tactical officer whispered. "I don't know," Zarath said. "But scan it. Tell me what we're facing." The officer worked quickly. Then his face turned pale. "Sir, according to these readings, that ship is over 2,000 years old. Impossible. It looks brand new." "It was preserved, sir. Hidden. Waiting." From the black ship, a transmission came through. A human face appeared. A woman. "Captain Rodriguez, Velan Fleet," she said calmly. "You wanted to see what humans are capable of? Let me show you something. 2,000 years ago, my ancestors fought in the great human wars. Nation against nation. Brother against brother. We built weapons so terrible that we nearly destroyed our own planet." She pressed a button. The black ship fired a single shot. Just one shot. It hit an asteroid near the Velan fleet. The asteroid was massive. The size of a small moon. The shot didn't just destroy the asteroid. It erased it. The asteroid simply stopped existing. No explosion, no debris. It was just gone. The Velan ships went silent. That was set to 1% power. Maria continued. "Do you understand now? We didn't stop fighting because we were weak. We stopped because we were terrified of ourselves. We were so good at killing that we almost killed everything. Zarath felt something he hadn't felt in many years. Fear. Real fear. For 2,000 years we've kept these weapons locked away, Maria said. We made a promise to never use them again. We chose peace. We chose to forget how to be monsters. But you made us remember. More human ships appeared. Old warships. Ancient vessels. Each one was a relic from humanity's darkest age. But each one still worked. Each one was still deadly. My grandmother told me stories, Maria said quietly. Stories about the great wars. About cities that burned in seconds. About oceans that turned to steam. About the day when 10 billion humans died in a single hour. We swore never again. But that promise came with a warning. She leaned closer to the camera. Never mistake our kindness for weakness. Never mistake our peace for powerlessness. And never ever make us remember what we're capable of. The transmission ended. Zarath looked at his remaining ships. He had arrived with 5,000. Now he had less than 4,000. And they had only attacked one small colony. One small colony. So what are your orders? His officer asked. Zarath stared at the screen. At the black human warship. At the place where an asteroid used to be. Send a message to the council. He whispered. Tell them we made a terrible mistake. Back on Earth, Admiral Chen watched the reports coming in. He closed his eyes. He looked tired. Sad, Lieutenant Park noticed. Sir, we won. Why do you look so sad? Chen opened his eyes. Because, Lieutenant, we didn't want to win like this. For 2,000 years, we've been trying to be better. To be more than just weapons and warriors. And in one day, we've remembered everything we tried to forget. He stood up and looked out at Earth. Beautiful, blue, peaceful. The monsters are awake again, he said softly, and I don't know if we can put them back to sleep. The awakening. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. 50 alien species sat in the grand hall. They were shouting, arguing, panicking. Holographic screens showed the battle at Proxima Station. They watched it again and again. Watched human weapons destroy Valen warships like toys. This is impossible, shouted Ambassador Krell, a tall, insect-like alien. Humans are farmers. Artists, they write poetry. They also write war, said High Chancellor Voron. He was the oldest member of the council. His species had lived for thousands of years. He had seen many wars, but even he looked worried now. I warned you all. I told you to read their history more carefully. History? Zarath stood up. He had come to the council to explain his defeat. His uniform was burned. His pride was broken. Their history shows peace. 2,000 years of peace. Yes, Voron said slowly. But what came before that peace? Did any of you actually read about the great human wars? Silence filled the chamber. I did, Voron continued. I read everything, and I found something terrifying. Humans didn't achieve peace through wisdom. They achieved it through fear. Fear of themselves. He pressed a button. A holographic image appeared. It showed old Earth, but this Earth was different. The continents were burning. The oceans were red. The sky was black with smoke. This is Earth in the year 2025 of their calendar. The Great Wars had been going on for 50 years. Nuclear weapons, biological weapons, chemical weapons. Humanity used everything. Against themselves, more images appeared. Cities turned to glass. Forests turned to ash. Rivers turned to poison. In 1 century, humans reduced their population from 10 billion to 1 billion. 9 billion dead. They didn't stop because they won. They stopped because there was almost nothing left to fight for. The council members stared in horror. After the wars ended, the survivors made a choice, Voron explained. They gathered all their weapons, every terrible thing they had created, and they hid them. Not destroyed them, hid them. They built secret bases on the moon, on Mars, in asteroids. They put their warships in hidden stations. They programmed everything to activate with one code, Protocol Red Dawn. Why didn't they destroy the weapons? Asked Ambassador Krell. Because, Voron said quietly, they knew that one day someone might threaten them again. They chose peace. But they prepared for war, and now we've activated that protocol. Zarath felt his blood turn cold. How many weapons did they hide? Voron looked at him with sad eyes. All of them. In Earth's orbital command center, Admiral Chen stood before a massive holographic map. It showed the entire solar system, and everywhere he looked, red dots were appearing. Hundreds of red dots. Thousands of red dots. Each dot was a weapon system. Each dot had been sleeping for 2,000 years. Now they were all waking up. Status report, Chen ordered. Lieutenant Park read from her datapad. Lunar defense grid fully operational. 15,000 railgun platforms online. Mars Fortress shields at maximum. Asteroid Belt Station Omega. All ships launched. Deep Space Sentinels active and hunting. And the soldiers? Chen asked. Park hesitated. Sir, the old military academies are opening. People are remembering things. Things their ancestors knew. Combat training. Tactical thinking. Battle instincts. It's like something in their DNA is waking up. Chen nodded. He had felt it too. A strange feeling. Like a voice in the back of his mind, whispering words he had never learned, but somehow knew. Words about weapons, about tactics, about how to fight, about how to win. The genetic memory protocols, he muttered. The scientists said those were just theory. Not theory, sir. Our ancestors encoded combat knowledge into human DNA. They wanted future generations to be peaceful. But if peace ever failed, if humanity ever needed to fight again, the knowledge would return. Chen walked to the window. Below, he could see Earth. Cities were changing. Factories that made toys were now making ammunition. Buildings that taught art were now teaching combat. Even the children were different. Quieter, more focused, more dangerous. We're becoming what we used to be, Chen whispered. What we swore never to be again. In space, the Valen Empire launched their second attack. This time, they brought 20,000 warships. The entire might of their empire. They came in a massive formation, ready to crush Earth with pure numbers. Commander Zarath was not leading this attack. He had been replaced. The new commander was General Thraknor, a veteran warrior who had conquered 50 planets. Humans got lucky once, Thraknor announced to his fleet. But luck runs out. We are the Valen Empire. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We will not be stopped by one small planet of weak mammals. His fleet moved forward, toward Earth, toward humanity's home. But they never reached it. When the Valen fleet entered the asteroid belt, something happened. The asteroids moved, not drifted, moved, with purpose. With intelligence, sir, shouted a tactical officer. The asteroids. They're not asteroids. They're ships. Thousands of ships disguised as rocks. The asteroids opened up. Inside each one was a human warship. Old warships, ancient warships, but deadly warships. And then, a voice came through every Valen communication channel. Valen fleet. This is Battleship Remembrance. You are entering human territory. Turn back now. This is your only warning. General Thraknor laughed. One ship threatens my entire fleet. Fire everything. The Valen fleet fired. 20,000 warships. Millions of weapons. Enough firepower to destroy 100 planets. But the human ships didn't die. They dodged. Every ship moved at the same instant. Perfect coordination. Perfect timing. They moved like they were one organism. Like a school of fish. Like a flock of birds. But these birds had teeth. The human ships attacked, and the Valen soldiers learned something terrifying. Humans didn't fight like other species. Other species used logic, used strategy, used predictable tactics. Humans fought like madmen. One human fighter pilot flew through a Valen cruiser's shield, fired all weapons inside the shield, then flew out before the ship exploded. One human destroyer ship rammed 3 Valen battleships, destroying all 3 and somehow surviving. One human captain sent his damaged ship on a collision course with a Valen carrier, but ejected his crew first. The empty ship crashed into the carrier like a missile. They're insane, screamed a Valen officer. They don't follow any rules. They don't care about their own safety. General Thraknor watched in horror as his fleet fell apart. Human ships were everywhere, moving too fast, hitting too hard, fighting with a ferocity that made no sense, and then he saw it, a single human soldier, in a spacesuit, with nothing but a handheld weapon, floating in space between destroyed ships. The soldier spotted a Valen cruiser, and he smiled. He fired a grappling hook, attached himself to the cruiser's hull. Then he planted something, a bomb, a mine. Under a message, the soldier wrote on the hull in bright paint, "You woke us up. This is your fault." Then he pushed off, floating away as the cruiser tried to shoot him. But the soldier was too small, too fast, too crazy. Thraknor realized something that Zarath had learned before him. Humans weren't just warriors. They were survivors. They had spent 2,000 years surviving peace. Now they were surviving war. And they were very, very good at it. Retreat, Thraknor ordered. Full retreat. Get us out of here! But as his ships turned to run, Admiral Chen's voice came through their communications. General Thraknor, this is Admiral Chen of Earth Forces. We did not want this war. We tried to avoid it. But you came to our home. You threatened our families. You made us remember. Chen paused. We are going to teach you something now. Something important. Something the whole galaxy needs to learn. Thraknor said nothing. He just listened. You can beat humans in many things. You can outsmart us. You can outlive us. You can build bigger empires. But there is one thing you can never do. What? Thraknor whispered. You can never ever out-crazy us. Because when humans have nothing left to lose, when you threaten everything we love, we don't just fight. We don't just rage. We become something else. Something worse. We become the thing that scared us into 2,000 years of peace. The transmission ended. Half of the Velan fleet never made it out of the asteroid belt. Back in the council chamber, the aliens watched the battle reports in stunned silence. 20,000 ships, Ambassador Krell whispered. They destroyed half of our 20,000 ships. This war must end, said High Chancellor Vorin, before humanity shows us what else they've been hiding. What else could they be hiding? Asked another council member. Vorin looked at the old Earth images again, at the burning planet, at the weapons that humans had built in their darkest age. I don't know, he said quietly, and I don't want to find out. The turning point 3 days after the asteroid belt battle, the Galactic Council called for an emergency meeting, but this time, they invited someone new, Admiral Chen. They want to talk, Lieutenant Park told him. The Council is requesting your presence. They say they want to discuss terms. Chen looked tired. He hadn't slept in 3 days. None of them had. Earth's military was fully awake now. Millions of people who had lived peaceful lives were now soldiers again. Farmers carried weapons. Teachers taught combat. Children learned survival skills instead of music. It was happening so fast. Too fast. Should we trust them, sir? Park asked. Chen thought for a moment. No, but we should listen. Maybe we can end this before he didn't finish the sentence. But Park knew what he meant. Before we go too far. Before we become what we used to be. Before we can't go back. The council chamber was different now. Before it had been full of proud aliens. Species that ruled the galaxy. Species that thought they were superior to humans. Now they looked scared. Admiral Chen walked into the chamber. He wore his uniform. Simple, gray, no decorations, no medals. Just his name and rank. But every alien in the room watched him like he was a loaded weapon. Admiral Chen, High Chancellor Vorin spoke first. Thank you for coming, Chancellor. Chen nodded. He looked around at all the alien faces. You wanted to talk. So talk. Commander Zarath stood up. His pride was gone. His arrogance was gone. Now he just looked defeated. Admiral, we want to understand. We studied your species for 2,000 years. We saw your art, your music, your literature. We saw parents playing with children. We saw people helping strangers. We saw peace. Real peace. How can the same species that create such beauty also create such horror? Chen finished for him. Death, destruction. Zarath nodded slowly. Chen walked to the center of the chamber. He looked at each council member. Let me tell you a story, he said. A true story. About Earth, about us. He pressed a button on his wrist device. Holographic images appeared. Images of old Earth. This is Earth in the year 1914. Humans had just learned to fly. We thought we were so advanced, so civilized. Then we had a war. The Great War, we called it. 20 million people died. The images changed. More death. More destruction. We said never again. We promised we learned our lesson. But 20 years later we had another war. World War II, 70 million people died. We used bombs that could destroy entire cities in 1 second. The aliens watched in silence. And still we didn't stop. For the next 100 years we had more wars. Small wars, big wars. Wars for resources. Wars for religion. Wars for pride. We created weapons that could kill the entire planet. Nuclear bombs, biological weapons, chemical weapons, nano weapons, gravity weapons. We created things that shouldn't exist. Chen's voice grew quieter. In the year 2025, everything came to a head. Every nation on Earth was at war. Everyone had the terrible weapons, and everyone was angry enough to use them. For 50 years, Earth burned. 9 billion people died. 9 billion, he paused. The hologram showed Earth after the wars. A dead planet. Gray skies. Empty cities. Silent oceans. The survivors looked at what we had done. We looked at our beautiful planet and we had turned it into hell. Not aliens. Not monsters. US. We did this to ourselves. The images changed again. This time they showed something different. Humans working together, building, healing, planting trees, cleaning oceans. The survivors made a choice. We said no more. We took all our weapons and we hid them. We took all our soldiers and we taught them to be farmers. We took all our hate and we buried it. We chose peace. Real peace. For 2,000 years. Chen looked directly at Zarath. You asked how we can create beauty and horror. The answer is simple. We can do both because we choose which one to do. For 2,000 years we chose beauty. We chose kindness. We chose to be better than our worst selves. Then why fight now? Asked Ambassador Krell. Why not choose peace again? Chen's eyes grew hard. Because you didn't give us a choice. You came to our home. You threatened our children. You declared war on people who wanted nothing but to live in peace. You forced us to remember what we tried so hard to forget. Silence filled the chamber. Then Vorin spoke. Admiral Chen, the Council wants to end this war. We want to negotiate peace. Peace. Chen laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. You declare war, attack our colonies, kill our people, and now you want peace. Because you're losing. Yes, Vorin said simply. Because we're losing. Because we made a terrible mistake. Because we didn't understand what we were facing. Chen was quiet for a long moment. What are your terms? He finally asked. We withdraw all forces from human space. We recognize Earth's sovereignty. We pay reparations for the damage we caused. And we never threaten humanity again. And in return, you stop, Vorin said. You stop fighting. You put your weapons away. You go back to being the peaceful species we thought you were. Chen closed his eyes. For a moment he looked like he might agree. But then something happened. An alarm sounded. A red alarm. The worst alarm. Lieutenant Park's voice came through Chen's communicator. Sir, we have a problem. A big problem. What is it? Chen demanded. The Valen Empire. They didn't send their whole fleet to the asteroid belt. They sent a secret force. A stealth fleet. And it just appeared at Earth. They're bombarding the planet. Civilian targets. Cities. Schools. Hospitals. Chen's face went white. Then red. Then something worse than angry. How many casualties? He asked, his voice shaking. Preliminary reports. 3 million dead. And counting. The council chamber went silent. Chen turned to look at Zarath. Did you know about this? Zarath looked genuinely shocked. No, I swear. This wasn't authorized. The military council must have. But Chen wasn't listening anymore. He pressed buttons on his wrist device. Fast. Angry. His hands were shaking. Admiral, what are you doing? Vorin asked, his voice full of fear. Chen looked up. His eyes were different now. Cold. Empty. Deadly. I'm activating Protocol Final Night, he said quietly. Every alien in the chamber gasped. Admiral, please, Vorin begged. We don't even know what that is, but it sounds... You want to know what Protocol Final Night is? Chen interrupted. Let me show you. The holographic display changed. It showed a planet. Not Earth, a different planet, far away in deep space, a planet that no one had seen before. After the Great Wars, human survivors realized something. We realized that we were too dangerous, too destructive. We almost killed ourselves. So we made a backup plan. The image zoomed in on the planet. It was covered in structures, massive structures, factories, weapons platforms, ships, millions of ships. For 2,000 years, while Earth was healing and learning peace, a small group of humans went to this planet. They called it Forge. Their job was to prepare, to build, to create the ultimate defense. They built an army, an automated army, ships with no crew, weapons with no operators, all controlled by AI, all programmed with one mission: protect humanity at any cost. The aliens stared in horror. Protocol Final Night activates Forge. It sends the entire automated fleet to destroy any threat to Earth, completely, Totally. No mercy. No survivors. Admiral, please. Zarath stood up, his voice desperate. My people didn't authorize the attack on Earth. It was a rogue military faction. We can stop them. We can surrender. Don't do this. Chen's finger hovered over the final button. 3 million people. Chen whispered. 3 million of my people just died. 3 million families destroyed. Because you couldn't accept peace. Because you had to test us. Because you thought we were weak. Tears ran down his face, but his hand didn't shake anymore. Admiral, Vorin said softly, if you activate that protocol, you become what you feared. You become the monsters from your past. Chen looked at him. I know. You have a choice, Vorin continued. You can choose mercy. You can choose to be better. Isn't that what you said? That humans choose which version of themselves to be. Chen's finger was still on the button. Lieutenant Park's voice came through again. Sir, the attack on Earth has stopped. The Valen stealth fleet is surrendering. They say the rogue commanders have been arrested. They're begging for mercy. Chen closed his eyes. 2,000 years of peace. 2,000 years of trying to be better. 2,000 years of choosing kindness over cruelty. Or 3 million dead people. 3 million innocent people who would never go home again. What would you choose? Chen took a deep breath. He pressed the button, but not the button to activate Forge. Instead, he sent a different message. A message to the Velen fleet at Earth, Velen forces. This is Admiral Chen. You are ordered to land your ships on Earth. You will surrender your weapons. You will face trial for your crimes. And if you're lucky, very lucky, we will show you the mercy you didn't show us. He looked at the council. The war is over. But the peace? The peace comes with conditions. The new Peace 6. Months after the war ended. Admiral Chen stood in front of the memorial wall. It was a new structure, built in the center of Geneva, where the old United Earth Council met. The wall was made of black stone. On it were 3 million names, every person who died in the Velen attack, men, women, children, all of them carved into the stone. All of them remembered. Chen touched one name, Sarah Park, Lieutenant Park's younger sister. She had been a teacher. She died protecting her students. I come here every day, said a voice behind him. Chen turned. It was Lieutenant Park. She wasn't in uniform today, just regular clothes. She looked tired but peaceful. How are you? Chen asked. Better, she said. Therapy helps. Talking helps. Time helps. She touched her sister's name on the wall. She would be proud, you know, that we chose mercy. Would she? Chen asked quietly. 3 million dead, and we let their killers live. We let them face justice, Park corrected. That's different. That's better. They stood in silence for a moment. The Council wants to see you, Park finally said. The Galactic Council. They're here on Earth for the signing. Chen nodded. Let's go. The meeting was held in the same room where the Great Peace Treaty was signed 2,000 years ago. The room where humanity chose to stop fighting itself. Now 50 alien species sat in that room. The Galactic Council. Every major civilization in the galaxy, and they all came to sign a new treaty. High Chancellor Vorin stood at the front. He looked older now. The war had aged him. People of Earth, he began. Representatives of the Galactic Council, we gather here today to sign the Treaty of Terra, a treaty that will change our galaxy forever. He gestured to Admiral Chen. Admiral, would you read the terms? Chen walked to the podium. He held a digital tablet. On it were the words that took 6 months to negotiate. Article 1, Chen read. The Galactic Council formally recognizes Earth and all human colonies as sovereign territory. No alien force may enter human space without permission. The alien representatives nodded. They had no choice. Humanity had proven they could defend themselves. Article 2. Chen continued. The Valen Empire will pay reparations to the families of all victims. The rogue military commanders responsible for the civilian attacks will face trial in human courts. Commander Zarath sat in the audience. He wore no uniform now. He had resigned from the military. He had spent the last 6 months personally apologizing to every family he could reach. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But he tried. Article 3. Chen's voice grew stronger. Humanity agrees to share its defensive technology with the Galactic Council. Not our weapons. Our defenses, shields, sensors, early warning systems, so that no species ever needs to fear attack again. This surprised some of the aliens. They expected humans to keep their technology secret, to use their advantage. But Chen continued. Article 4. Earth will establish the Galactic Peace Academy, a place where all species can learn conflict resolution, diplomacy, and peacekeeping. Because we learned something in our darkest days. War is easy. Peace is hard. Peace takes work. Every single day, Voron smiled. This was the article he had personally requested. And finally, Article 5. Chen looked up from the tablet. He looked at every alien in the room. Humanity will never again hide what we are. We will not pretend we're only artists and poets. We will not hide our history or our capability for violence, because the galaxy needs to know the truth. He paused. We are not pacifists. We are not weak. We are people who choose peace. Every day we wake up and we choose to be kind instead of cruel, to build instead of destroy, to help instead of hurt. That choice is harder than any war. That choice takes more courage than any battle. And we will keep making that choice, as long as the galaxy respects it. Silence filled the room. Then, slowly, one by one, every alien representative stood up and applauded. After the signing, Chen walked outside. The sun was setting over Geneva. The city was rebuilding, slowly, painfully, but rebuilding. A group of children ran past him, laughing, playing, normal children doing normal things, but Chen noticed something. They moved differently than children used to move. More aware, more careful, more alert. The genetic memory protocols had awakened in them too. Even children now carried the echoes of humanity's warrior past. Would they forget again? Would they grow up to be peaceful? Or would humanity forever be different now? Admiral Chen, a small voice said. One of the children had stopped. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, yes? Chen knelt down to her level. My teacher says you're a hero, that you saved Earth. Chen shook his head. I'm not a hero, sweetheart. I just did what I had to do. My mom died in the attack, the girl said quietly. She was in New Tokyo. She was a doctor. Chen's heart broke. I'm so sorry. It's okay, the girl said. But her eyes were too old for her age. Too sad. I just wanted to say thank you for not killing them all, for choosing mercy. Mom always said that mercy is what makes us human, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. She gave him a small smile, then ran back to her friends. Chen watched her go, tears in his eyes. Lieutenant Park appeared beside him. You made the right choice, sir. Did I? Chen asked. 3 million people are dead. I could have destroyed the Velan Empire. I could have made sure they never hurt anyone again. But I chose mercy. Was that right? Or was that weak? It wasn't weak, said another voice. They turned. High Chancellor Voron walked toward them. Admiral Chen, may I speak with you? Privately. Park nodded and walked away. Voron stood beside Chen looking at the sunset. My species is very old, Voron said. We have lived for 50,000 years. We have seen the rise and fall of 1,000 civilizations. Some were peaceful, some were violent, but all of them eventually fell. Why are you telling me this? Chen asked. Because I want you to understand something. In all those 50,000 years, in all those 1,000 civilizations, I have never seen what I saw 6 months ago. What did you see? I saw a species with the power to destroy their enemies completely. Choose not to. I saw warriors at the peak of their rage. Choose mercy. I saw people who had every right to seek revenge. Choose justice instead. Voron turned to look at Chen. That is not weakness, Admiral. That is the strongest thing any species can do. You had unlimited power, and you chose to limit it. That's not just strength. That's wisdom. Chen said nothing. The galaxy knows now, Voron continued. They know that humans are dangerous. They know you have weapons that could end worlds. But more importantly, they know you have the wisdom not to use them. They know you will choose peace if given the choice. And that makes you the most trusted species in the galaxy. Trusted? Chen laughed bitterly. Half the galaxy is terrified of us. Yes, Voron agreed. Fear and respect. That's the balance you've achieved. They fear your strength, but respect your restraint. That combination, that's what creates real lasting peace. Chen looked at the memorial wall in the distance, at the 3 million names. I hope you're right, he said quietly. Because if we have to make that choice again, I don't know if we'll be strong enough to choose mercy twice. Voran put a gentle hand on Chen's shoulder. That's what makes you strong enough. The fact that you question it. The fact that it's hard. The fact that you feel the weight of every life. That's what separates you from the monsters you fear becoming. 3 months later, Earth's defense systems began powering down. Slowly, carefully, the weapons didn't disappear. They couldn't. The galaxy knew about them now. But they went back to sleep, back to waiting, back to being the insurance policy that humanity hoped to never use again. The Galactic Peace Academy opened. The first class had students from 30 different species. They learned history, Earth's history, the great wars, the terrible weapons, the millions who died. But they also learned about the peace, about the 2,000 years when humans chose every day to be better. And they learned the most important lesson. Peace is not the absence of the ability to make war. Peace is the choice not to. Admiral Chen retired from military service. He became a teacher at the Peace Academy. He taught a class called The Cost of War. Every student who took his class had to visit the memorial wall, had to read names, had to understand that every war, every battle, every conflict had a human cost. Not just human. All life. Lieutenant Park joined him. She taught diplomacy and conflict resolution. Commander Zerath, the villain who started the war, also came to the academy. Not as a teacher, as a student. He was too old to learn new tricks, he said, but too ashamed not to try. He and Chen spoke sometimes. Never as friends. The wounds were too deep, but as two old warriors who understood the cost of pride. Years passed. Children who grew up after the war told stories about it. How humanity almost fell back into darkness. How Admiral Chen chose mercy at the last moment. How one decision changed everything. The stories grew, became legends. Some parts were exaggerated, some parts were forgotten, but the core truth remained. Humanity had been given a choice between revenge and mercy. Between hate and hope. Between the easy path and the right path. And they chose right. Not because they were perfect. Not because they were saints. But because they remembered what happened when they chose wrong. 50 years after the war. Admiral Chen was an old man now. Very old. Lying in a hospital bed, Lieutenant Park, also old and gray, sat beside him. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Chen asked. His voice was weak. "Every day," Park answered. "Every day I see young people from 100 different species learning to talk instead of fight. Every day I see the galaxy becoming a little more peaceful. Every day proves we were right," Chen smiled. "And the weapons? The terrible weapons we built? Still sleeping. Still waiting. Still unused. Good." Chen closed his eyes. "Maybe one day a generation will come that doesn't need them at all. Maybe they'll finally destroy them. Maybe," Park said. "But even if they don't, they'll know why they're there. They'll know the cost of using them, and that knowledge will keep them safe." Chen's breathing slowed. "Sarah would be proud of you," he whispered. "Proud of all of us." And then peacefully Admiral Chen, the man who chose mercy over revenge, the warrior who chose peace over war, took his last breath. On the memorial wall, they added a new name, Admiral James Chen, the man who ended the war, the man who saved the peace. Far away, in the darkness of space, something stirred. The automated planet Forge still existed, still waited, still prepared. Because humanity learned the hard way, hope for peace, but prepare for war. But now the galaxy knew the truth. Earth didn't want war. Earth didn't seek violence. Earth only wanted to be left alone to pursue art, science, beauty, and peace. But if you forced them to fight, if you threatened their children, if you made them remember what they tried so hard to forget, then you would face something worse than an army. You would face an army that didn't want to fight, that hated every moment of violence, that mourned every death on both sides. An army that fought not with rage, but with sorrow, and that made them unstoppable. Because when you fight for hate, you can be defeated by a stronger hate. But when you fight for love, for family, for the right to simply exist in peace, that can never be defeated. The galaxy learned its lesson. 1,000 years of peace had ended. War came to Earth. But Earth didn't just win the war. Earth taught the galaxy what real strength looked like, and the galaxy never forgot. The end final message appearing on screen. They came for war. We gave them a choice. They chose violence. We chose victory. But when victory was ours, we chose mercy. Because that's what separates civilization from chaos. That's what separates humans from monsters. We don't fight because we want to. We fight because we have to. And when the fight is over, we put down our weapons and pick up our tools. We stop being warriors and we go back to being human. That is our strength. That is our pride. That is HFY.